Without further ado, I'd love to welcome my co-host on this session, Chris Romrell, Global Head of Technical Support at NICE CXone and award winner.
Two-time winner.
Two-time winner. Yes, thank you. Thanks for being with me.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So technology only matters if it can actually deliver the results in the real world. And that's why I'm so thrilled to have this conversation with you. And before we get into that story, I really want everyone to align around how important this is on both sides of this, right? We see here what agents need and what customers need. And while this isn't new, AI is really increasing the expectations that we have from solutions like this. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. It's raised the bar.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So let's really define what a great solution looks like. That's what I love about these three blocks that we have here. It's like you've got to be able to deliver clear answers no matter where it is. If it's in a chatbot, if it's in a portal, if it's in a Slack conversation, it's got to be able to be asked by experts, by people who really know how to ask a question, but it's also got to be able to be asked by people who are just trying to get to that next stage. And then it's got to be able to be extracted now from messy sources. It's got to be able to be not just the perfect articles. You have such experience in that with your team. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I think, again, we use Resolve SX. I'm sure people are going to be shocked to hear that, but Resolve SX brings our knowledge sources into a central, clean version, right? And they've done, Serial and that team did amazing work for us this year. I think we have 12 or 13 different knowledge sources all converging into one. And then we're letting SupportLogic in the XFind product do the magic of determining what knowledge source is best correlated, what's the match rate, at what point do we display the knowledge, at what point do we say, maybe we're just going to show you some search results. And so again, I think there's a little bit of the magic happening that SupportLogic does for us that we couldn't do for ourselves. It was too messy for us to solve.
That's awesome. Let's get deeper into your story. What put you on this path to really wanting to solve this problem?
As I mentioned this morning, again, we had a very successful deployment of the Core SX product. And when we saw that SupportLogic acquired XFind, that day I was talking to my chief operations officer saying, this is an opportunity for us to upgrade our customer experience. And we started doing research. We started envisioning what was possible. And we found that 85% of our customers went to the portal to open a case with no deflection. Only 50% were searching. And so we felt like that was maybe not a good experience and maybe was indicative of a bad process. And so as we started looking at what we could do, we looked at our current vendor and their solutions, and we struggled to get good results back. And then we started looking at, we did a proof of concept with SupportLogic and the Resolve SX product, and the data started getting better. And then we gave them feedback about this was good or this wasn't, and we had a standard set of maybe 100 searches that we would preview on the old search, and then we started using SupportLogic, and then we do manual validations, and we'd say, we're at 80% accurate. Now we're at 90% accurate, and now we're about 98% accurate. Now, it doesn't mean that everything's written down. There's still engineers, and there's still dependencies, so no, but when information is available, SupportLogic is able to find it and deliver it. And so that's really what kind of set us on this journey and that history. When we deployed Resolve SX in our customer portal, it was hard because it's all implied. We don't see anything explicit about the deflection yet. And so we started noticing about a 4 to 5% decrease in monthly cases. And we traced that back to SupportLogic. And we believe intrinsically that's what's contributing to this trend. As we start, by the end of this month, we've repurposed our case creation path to force a search, to basically take the description, the details of the case as it's being created, push it into SupportLogic using their APIs, getting back the payload, surfacing that to the customer in the portal, and letting them say, this looks good to me, thank you so much for your help, or I need some more help, let's go ahead and proceed with the case. But it's, again, integrating a kind of search into the case path so that the customer then has that delivered to them in a very generative paragraph with the links to the both sourced and referenced knowledge to really bring the information forward. It's no longer a list of sources, a list of knowledge articles, but is bringing that generative experience which they expect, right? We used to say if you showed someone the right answer, there was only a 30 to 40% chance that they clicked through, that click-through rate. But by delivering a RAG response, now all they have to do is look at the screen that they're already looking at and hopefully read. So we think that click-through rate, or that what we call it, an actualization rate of seeing the knowledge and being able to assess if this is good or not, is going to be higher. And again, we're very excited about how that will come out in the next couple of weeks.
That's awesome. So you've recently deployed this. We've already talked about some of the impact that you're seeing, but tell me more about the integration. Tell me about the timeline for your team and stuff like that.
So SupportLogic announced XFind mid to late 2024. We did a POC in December, and we were fully deployed on our customer portal in May. Amazing.
Wow.
Again, Serial's not here. I would give the poor guy a hug. That team did amazing work for us, meeting a very tight deadline with an existing vendor to get our customer portal delivered on time before our renewal came up. And so, again, that was very quick. Now, since May, it's taken a few more months to wire up another 8 data sources of different types of knowledge and different systems to get our internal search deployed. And we can, is that the next slide, or?
Yeah, let's see here. We've got, is it with this historical case yet?
We just talked about it. Yeah. So yeah, we are currently a Salesforce Classic shop, and we started looking at the Assist module, and it requires us to move to Lightning, and that's going to be a lift and something we haven't yet done. So we took the customer portal and we asked SupportLogic, can you give us an internal portal? And they said, we should be able to do that. And Tali and their team worked very diligently again, trying to harness a very rapid feature to deploy an internal portal. And so inside Salesforce, in Classic, we provide the same interface, the same ability to insert a question and look at all 13 of our sources and come back with a generative paragraph with referenced and linked sources, so that our internal users, who account for 20 to 30% of our cases, can also benefit from SupportLogic. So it's a transition for us. We're expecting to see, again, a larger deflection from our internal users. It gets implicit because we don't exactly correlate search to case, but it's there, and we'll see some additional metrics there. And then the next thing we are doing is we're integrating it into Microsoft Teams. And so as a Microsoft shop, we collaborate in teams. We don't do tiered support. We do a swarming methodology. I'm talking a lot, and hopefully that's okay.
Yeah.
But we keep the case with the original engineer, and they'll bring in expertise from other teams or R&D to collaborate on a case to get it solved. And all that collaboration happens in Microsoft Teams. And one thing we heard from our senior engineers and from R&D was, this was written down in product documentation 9 months ago, and the engineer didn't read it. What is going on with your engineers, Chris? They're not reading the documentation. I'm like, dude, there's 10, 13 different sources. What do you expect them to do? And so by bringing SupportLogic Search into Teams where they're collaborating in their workflow, they can mention SupportLogic AI and type in their question, and it will give them a nice generative RAG answer. Again, allowing us to get to resolution for some cases much faster if it's been written down. And again, from a case perspective, we want to deflect customer cases on the front. We want to reduce internal cases inside. And then as we are working cases, we want to leverage that search internally to reduce effort for case, and shorten case resolution.
It seems like, hearing your story, that thank you for that, by the way, that you've got a real knack for getting your team to rally behind these tools. And from what I hear sometimes across the market is that sometimes the reason why these things don't get going is because there's an adoption issue. It just doesn't catch on. Like from a leadership angle, maybe as a piece of advice to other leaders, what's the secret there for you?
So the interesting story is, last year at the conference, I was the head of continuous improvement at NICE. And so I was a services fixer who helped teams adopt tools and process and technology. And I was brought in to help tech support. And then 3 months later, my boss said, hey, Chris, what are you going to say when I ask you to run tech support? And so it was success by success. And so now I'm a change agent in tech support, leading a global organization of 200 engineers across 9 countries, speaking 10 languages. And so change is what I do. And now I'm trying to bring change to a department who hates change, right? You have to win hearts and minds of engineers who have spent their career developing the tribal knowledge that makes them indispensable. And showing them a better way is a challenge, but that's why we have this 3-prong approach: a customer approach, an internal approach, an engineer approach, and if I'm being honest, a leadership approach. And so an engineer approach is one of those 4 pillars, and you have to treat them with care. When I took over in tech support, I had a list of 100 things that we could change, and AI was top on my list. I think probably 15 of my 100 items was just AI. And so trying to prioritize what was most important, what would have the biggest impact, doing some modeling and saying, this is what we need to do the first quarter. We need to prioritize portal search, internal search, Teams integration, and then, yes, we need to get into the case flow, and then we need to start thinking about some cooler stuff like chatbots or even agent automation, right? Outside of SupportLogic, how do I automate some tasks and make the engineer's life a little easier? Not shorter, not fewer hours, but more time engineering, less time pulling a log, less time responding to a case, more time engineering.
Thank you. This is a moment. I want to make sure, can folks read this slide? I know that the contrast has been a little funny on this. Can you see the wording in the blue boxes? Pretty good? Oh yeah, the green ones are the bad ones. Okay, oh boy. All right, so I'm gonna do my best. We're gonna nerd out a little bit on how this precision RAG stuff works, and if Sariel was here, he would be able to explain this better than I can, but I'm excited to dive in and talk about it a little bit. So here we go. What I love about this model into how precision RAG works is that these 2 things are coming in, right? You've got the user query and you've got the knowledge sources. And when the knowledge sources come in, they are cleaned to a standard, which is a really cool part of what's happening in this model. And then they are modeled in with these LLMs so that they're almost ready to receive these queries. And you can see where that's really happening is in this language processing section, where you've got the query coming into the knowledge, and then those 2 things come together, and then they are hit by guardrails, and then they are cleaned up and turned into an answer with a pre-trained generative LLM, right? Like we're all used to using ChatGPT or anything like that. And what I think makes this especially special is that there's a feedback loop to it. And this is something I do with the models that I build for marketing purposes as well, is making sure that not only do you just have an answer, but then you feed that answer back in and make sure it's the best answer, right? So that's what's really cool about precision RAG, is that feedback loop that can handle complexities of data, incompleteness of data, any type of user query, and then it can detect a search failure if that feedback loop isn't working when it gets checked on again. Is that what you're noticing with your team?
Yeah, I describe it as a living knowledge base. The problem, where's David? He's gonna shoot me. The problem with KCS is that it's a place in time where knowledge was accurate, and then the next day, the next release, it requires a lot of maintenance and work of the future potential of someday somebody might want to see this, and it has to be accurate. So you spend a lot of time procuring knowledge that may or may not be used with the hope of achieving a better customer experience. And while we're using actually historic cases, the case we closed yesterday gets ingested into the LLM today and can be used to deflect a case this afternoon.
Wow.
And that's amazing. Now, is it perfect? Do engineers write everything down? No. We're working on that. We have some case hygiene stuff we've been working on, and we're actually working with the Elevate product to say, how can we bring case quality from not just did we talk to the customer politely and have a good dialogue, a frequent dialogue meeting all of our update SLAs, but how well did we work the case and document the case so it can be used for knowledge? It's not just a path to resolving the customer's problem, but if we take one more step and write it down, that case now becomes knowledge. It becomes usable. It becomes an artifact which can be leveraged within the LLM.
That's awesome. And to further hammer home this point that we're making here, if you can't read that top left, we're comparing common RAG to precision RAG in a lot of what Chris just described as it's not just answers from a KB, it's answers from immediately resolved cases that happened a couple days ago. It's not just well-kept FAQs, it's barely curated documents. That's a really cool part about this, is that it's not only great at a feedback loop, it's great at really handling that final step. It's a great use of AI because it's that assistant in the process.
Yeah, and the current search experience is not as collaborative as maybe it will be in the future. Today, I type my search, I pass the payload to Resolve SX, it gives me back the answer and the sources, and we curate that to the agent or to the customer. We do envision a chatbot experience where if the customer types 5 words, that's maybe not very contextual. I can't source 10,000 knowledge artifacts against those 5 words. But if they gave me 15, now I can get a lot more accurate, right? Traditional keyword search was all about matching an article value and stack rank and attachment to cases. RAG search is different, right? Precision RAG is different. It needs the context, it needs the ability to pass those artifacts so it knows which sources to rank with the inquiry, with the symptom. And so we struggle internally with people searching for 3 words or 5 words. How do I do this? Give me a product name, give me a symptom, give me more, and the answer can come back with more. It can be more accurate.
Awesome. This is our last slide. It seems
Wow, did we blow through that?
We've got an absurd amount of time
I think I've been
left.
talking really fast.
No, you've been great. I don't know, maybe I talk too fast. I don't know what, yeah.
I don't think you do. You're in marketing. You talk very well. I'm in operations. I talk fast.
We've got some time for questions. If anybody's got a question in the room for Chris.
I think one thing we haven't talked about is governance. How do we prevent customer data from getting out in the wild? And I didn't maybe hit this yet. So we're using case data internally. It's safe there. We can give it to our internal employees. We don't yet have a process to get case data to a customer portal. We think that's something we may need to still refine. So there's a very cool product as part of the Assist module, which is a draft article, right? So SupportLogic has these agentic agents. They can summarize a case. They can create a draft knowledge article, and then we can create a workflow where somebody actually reviews that article, compares it to the existing knowledge and says, does this match? Is this net new? Does this conflict with something? And decide, do we push this into our customer-facing knowledge base to improve overall ingestion deflection or implied deflection, getting that stuff on the front end. So this is still very early, right? Like 6 months into this project, and they're very excited about it, but it's not all there yet. We're getting better, and we have great expectations about what it can do for us.
That's awesome. We really did go pretty quick. I snuck a look at my watch, and we're very fast.
I know we're trying to catch up, but we do want some answers. We can take some questions.
Yeah, we have time for questions. Here, was one here. I don't know. Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Matt
we'll
right here.
Restate if you like.
He's coming with a microphone. Yeah.
Just anticipate that I'll ask a question. So I'm Mila Marsh, and I am the director of a new team at Finastra called Spark, founder of Spark. And we actually collaborate with NICE, with our payments customers. And so I'm excited to see a familiar name here. I'm at the cusp of probably you in December, or maybe you last December, but trying to figure out what do we want to do. So if you could talk to yourself a year ago, knowing what you know now, what would you do?
I love that.
Because I'm that version right now.
Again, to borrow the term, I bossed so good at continuous improvement that I became the leader in support. But the good news is the company actually designated a director of AI initiatives at NICE. So somebody in our services org whose job it is to practice the art of the possible and get creative and prove what could be done. And so he has a list of 150 things that services could do with AI, and we're prioritizing those. And some of those things were solved with RAG search and SupportLogic search. I think 15 of his things were checked off when we pushed this feature out. But some of them are automation. They're agentic. They're things that are going to require more complex solutions. And so we're prototyping other AI engines and integrations into Salesforce and orchestration triggers and engines. And so I'll slow down and say, get creative, and imagine a better experience. Give yourself the permission to fail. Give yourself permission to try things. Maybe not involve all of your engineers in a prototype. Find the ones that are going to be adaptive and change embracers and get good feedback before you roll it out to the whole team. But give yourself permission to imagine. And as you start ideating and testing things out, work with your IT team. Don't break any rules. Don't get fired because you did something bad. But do give yourself permission to do cool stuff. Download stuff, throw it into a spreadsheet, put it into GPT, have it and analyze it. Look at Salesforce cases, put it into a spreadsheet, throw it into OpenAI and have it and analyze your CSAT, right? Mine your data, look for ways to innovate processes. We look at our CSAT data as opportunities to improve. We look at every DSAT and non-SAT and say, is there a process or a person or a reason that led us here? What do we need to do upstream to prevent this from happening again? And we're seeing, again, I've seen about a 10% lift in CSAT over the last 14 months. And we're targeting 80%, which we think is best in class, by the next 12 months.
So I would be that director that you referred to. And what's the next step? I'm just going to write down all the steps.
No.
I'm just kidding.
Let's go. No,
and
really.
then it's the 25th step, and then the.
So
I could be here all day.
Start inventorying AI tools, right? SupportLogic is one, but not all. OpenAI, Copilot, Claude, right? Start getting familiar with all of them. If you're the AI director, you need to see what can be done. Start asking yourselves what we could do. Work with your services team, look at your data, say where are there opportunities to improve, what's important to the company, and then start making some creative things. If we did this, wouldn't it be cool? And so many conversations started with, wouldn't it be cool if we had an AI response bot that just acknowledged cases when they came in and an engineer didn't spend time saying, thank you for sending your case. That's pretty cool. What would it take? You know,
I'm going to write that one.
What if there was a troubleshooting bot? We got a case come in and it says, I'm looking at your case. I don't think you provided enough details. I'm going to proactively solicit the customer, say, can you please give us a little information, date, time, contact ID, clear a symptom, so that the case is actionable when it gets to an engineer. That sounds pretty cool. It's going to save some time. Yes?
Thank you. So my question is around using the case that you solved yesterday to solve the issue today. Are you concerned about sensitive information from customer A being exposed to customer B, and how do you protect from that?
So we are concerned about that, and for that reason, our use of historical cases is currently held internal, right? We expose it to our engineers and to our internal users. We're not exposing historical cases on our customer portal because we haven't cracked this nut yet. And we think there's probably either a proactive knowledge, agentic analysis, is there a PHI, a customer data, or a human process where we actually use the assist module to create draft knowledge and a workflow that says, turn this into a knowledge article, which then becomes customer facing and gets indexed by SupportLogic and shows up tomorrow through that process. And so we haven't solved 100% of that yet, but we have a path and a theory and a what we could do to do it. And so, again, if I backed myself up 12 months ago, I sat on the stage and said, we're doing some cool stuff in AI, and I'm 60% through that roadmap, and I've got more to go. I probably have 50 more things to do, if I'm being honest, to add to the bottom of the list. Thank you.
Yeah, great question. Hard to see with the light.
Yep. Any others? Yes, go ahead.
Right down here in the.
Earlier you were talking about using Ask SupportLogic as a Slack bot or in Teams. My question was, how did you integrate that? And is it part of your case swarm? So if you have your engineers swarming, do you introduce the Slack bot there and it contributes, or how does that work?
Excellent question. So I can't speak on Slack because I'm a Teams shop, but in Teams, we do something interesting. All of our collaboration is Teams. And so when I'm in a case and I need help, I create what we call a swarm session, which is a child case in Salesforce, a child object, which then integrates to a Teams channel and a specific thread. And we pull data out of Salesforce into the Teams channel with the right people that we can @mention and collaborate with. And we add the SupportLogic AI bot to the channel. So the first thing the engineer can do is say, @SupportLogic, this is my symptom, help me out. Now, they could check it before, but if they do it in the Teams channel, then everybody sees that they asked the question and they can say, is that right? Weigh in, thumb up, thumb down. But it is done through an API into Teams that was exposed to us as part of our case deflection path. So in order to get our case from Salesforce and to fire the API and pass the payload to SupportLogic and get it back, we're firing the API with a payload and getting it back. So we're using that same API with some parameters so we know it came from Teams, that we can generate that from any Teams session or any Teams channel.
Thank you. I love that because the one problem is meet engineers where they are.
Exactly.
So if that's the tool that they're working in, don't make them context switch, go out, and then come back and then go over here. So it's all in one place.
Yeah, so the assist module is great because it plugs straight into Salesforce if you're using a CRM. It will do real-time case summaries and pass that summary into the AI and bring it back, but it requires Lightning, and I'm not there yet. So my portal search and my Teams integration is a step in the right direction. Ultimately, I think we'll be on the assist module.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
But that doesn't solve for my internal case creation or my portal path, so. I think I'm looking for more. Yes?
Did NICE actually create that, or was that SupportLogic basically?
So NICE built the integration using the SupportLogic API.
Okay.
I imagine Tali will come up with a Teams application that is more native and easier in the coming point of time. I've asked for a lot of other stuff too, so I don't want to give her too much.
Awesome. Okay, thank you.
But it wasn't hard. It created like 3 hours. We had an integration. It was easy.
Great, great.
Chris, thank you so much for coming up here, telling your story. Folks, thanks for listening. Thank you for your great questions.
You bet. And I'm Chris. Look me up on LinkedIn.
Chris Romrell.